Welcome to the TransForum. The great issues of our day demand clarity, and today we'll be addressing the question, which values both preserve our freedoms and unite us corporately?
I'm Dennis Peacock, and this is the TransForum, and today we're going to be dealing with the whole question of values and freedom and the balance between those two things. My question today is, what is the news? Everybody's interested in the news. Well, what is the news? And the principle that we're discussing is simply this. Citizens must be trained to discern the difference between the news, trends, and ideas. There is a difference between news, trends, and ideas, although very, very seldom. In fact, I'm not sure I've ever heard this on television, the radio, or read it in a newspaper. Explains really what is the difference. But an educated population is required to have good government and a sane society. And those things are getting increasingly rare, certainly here in the United States. Well, let's talk for a moment about what is news. News is quite simply an event. It's an incident. Most news issues are one-off issues. There's something that just happened somewhere. And of course, everybody is interested in the news to some degree. And unfortunately, bad news sells a whole lot better than good news. There are very few newspapers or very few communication systems that only deal with good news because for some perverse reason in fallen human nature, we're not interested in good news unless it's good news for us. Some news events actually are trends. That is, they are pointing to something that is going on in the culture, something that's going on in a nation. For example, Madoff's deception. Everybody's aware that he got 150 years. We talked about that some time back. What is that in terms of a trend? Well, it's very simple. That is a trend in the culture of a lack or a breakdown of business ethics. A lack of business ethics. And over the last number of years, whether it's Enron or whatever, there's been multitudes of examples of where the lack of ethics is doing serious damage to everybody's trust in the free market system. Madoff's deception warrants being called a trend. It's something that's going on in the culture that transcends in an isolated event. It's more than an event. It's more than news. And lastly, when we're talking about something that is actually an event that has got causative principles or ideas, we're talking there about something that is powerful, something that is what we would call radical. Now, radical, the Latin word for radical literally means principle or root structures. Radix is the Latin word for something that's radical. It means that we're dealing with something that is not a symptom, it's actually causative. It's what we would call an axiom. It's a worldview, it's a value, it's a principle. That's what we're trying to do here on the TransForum, is we're trying to get beyond mere news. You don't need us to talk about the news. Everybody's talking about the news, and most of it is really of little long-range significance. A few people talk about trends. They're able to analyze culture and what's going on in another deeper level. Even rare are those who have the insight to talk about change in a worldview or the ultimate value structures of a culture and principles. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to analyze what's going on and educate people and elicit their responses and input on what is going on here that is really significant and isn't just a passing incident. Can you tell the difference between news, a trend, or a real principle? This is the TransForum. Hey, let's engage.